So there's a framework project that we're working on. And who are we? I'm Gardner Campbell, and you are.
I'm Alan Levine, good friend of Gardner Campbell's.
And we have worked together on many such projects before, but this may be the mother of all framework projects. We have this idea that there's a way to take a document that changed the world, but isn't very well known, which is Doug Engelbart's 1962 research report, also a kind of a manifesto, called Augmenting Human Intellect, a Conceptual Framework, and putting that document within an environment that encourages really close and thoughtful engagement, and most of all, a conversation around Doug Engelbart's ideas regarding all this technology that he helped to invent, helped to popularize, but along the way kind of got detached from some of those ideas in ways that have not necessarily led all the technology to be for the best possible uses. So we've got this idea. We've got some support from the Doug Engelbart Institute. We've got a WordPress website. Tell us, what else are we going to be foisting upon these unsuspecting framework pioneers, Alan?
Well, the bulk of the work is going to take place with the web annotation tool Hypothesis, which some people may be familiar with, and I know you've used it a lot in your teaching, and I'm going to be using it even more with my teaching this semester. But it almost adds like a separate layer on the web of conversation and discussion about anything that's on the web. And annotation was part of the original, idea of the web, and it kind of, it was in the first version of Mosaic, but it kind of fell behind, all the commercialization stuff. But the idea that we can not only read a paper and add commentary on it, but we can do it like collaboratively and socially. And so we can see each other's annotations and comments, and we can build off of it. So it's taking the old idea of annotation, which has been around for a long time, and bringing it into a modern age. It's a web standard now, and there's a lot we can do with it to augment the reading of this paper.
It really does lead us right back to Doug's ideas about collective intelligence, about what happens when people are able to work together collaboratively in an environment where all of us are smarter than any of us. And really, it was his vision that if we could find a way to harness this collective IQ, focus it, make that a real force for change and a way of addressing these complex problems, we might actually be able to invent solutions faster than we invent problems. And while we don't really have a problem we're trying to solve in this exercise, it really is what I hope will be an experience within the annotation, within all the activities that we're going to be having, of the kinds of things that Engelbart was talking about in his conceptual framework. A use of technology to be able to reveal and harness the power of collective intelligence, what we call thought vectors in concept space.
Just having this conversation, takes me back to the days when I was working with NMC, the New Media Consortium, and you were, I believe, in Baylor at the time, and we came up with this idea of the networked seminar. And so you were leading a group of faculty through some readings from the New Media book, and this paper was one of the ones in there. But I remember from both the things that we did about trying to have this seminar take place in multiple places at the same time. But also, when I visited, of seeing the power of having a conversation about the ideas in these papers in a room together. And then we expanded that room into the internet. But we also did podcasts every week, which was frankly a chance just for us to sit around and gab, which I think we're pretty good at doing. And so we're kind of doing that again in a way, but differently.
There's a way for this conversation not just to be a kind of a debate, but a fruitful search together for a bigger understanding of how these ideas might work. And yeah, it was a grand time. And we've since then worked together on an undergraduate research writing course at VCU that was called Thought Vectors in Concept Space, and brought a number of people together in a completely online, 200 level writing course to essentially think together as they formulated the questions they wanted to ask, because it's part of it's always coming up with the best questions.
At the same time, I remember, when we read the framework paper, I mean, it's a hard paper, and so typically, as a student or a teacher, you sign papers, and you go back to your little cubby hole and you try to figure this thing out, and that's not, thinking about the ideas in the paper. It's like we should use these networks of people and these tools that we have to try to get to better understandings, to make the world of knowledge better, to make society better. And so it's, again, we're actually, I believe, employing principles that are discussed in this paper to understand it better, which gets us into these great meta circles.
And it's a response to Doug's own words in the framework, where he says, this is the first draft. It was a finished document, but he said, this is my first try at this conceptual framework. Let's work on this. He clearly anticipated that there would be more building to do, that there would be more to say, more things to try, and deeper understandings. But that's the work that the network can do over time in a way that is pretty thrilling and wouldn't be possible outside of a computerized environment.
And you're coming off having attended and participated in the 50th anniversary of the mother of all demos, which had so many people who were involved with it and interested in that. And so, to me, like, the thing about the irony of the demo is people remember, what a brilliant demo it was, and the tools and the video, the things that he was actually not only forecasting the future, but actually demonstrating in real time, which is astounding for 1968, obviously. But the thing that always struck me is that the title of his talk actually was basically a hark back to his ideas from 6 years earlier.
Bigger than the mouse, bigger than the network, bigger than any of those things. It was the structure of the idea that then led to all of the developments. And the danger is always that the results erase the idea and become kind of, runaway results that, when they get detached from the ideas, you don't really have any way to think about why you're doing what you're doing anymore. You just do it. You just click on this. You just touch the app. And Engelbart was always about being thoughtful and deliberate and aspirational at the level of ideas about why we were doing what we were doing.
Mm-hmm. So we're a couple of weeks out. Let's sort of talk about the way we see this unfolding. It's going to happen in February, right?
Yep. And it looks like the first full week of February will be the launch. It'll be what we're calling week 0, which will be in kind of an orientation week, a chance to practice doing hypothesis work, a chance to really kind of get to know your fellow expeditioneers and begin to do some of the work that we'll be doing in the following weeks. And after that, 3 additional weeks in which we're going to be working on specific sections of the framework in a lot of different ways, primarily annotation, but we hope to have some featured annotators from students and scholars, friends of Doug Engelbart, people who worked with him or who were heavily influenced by his work, and begin to essentially enrich this document with the living experience of those who were there, those who have tried to follow in his footsteps, and those who are new to his work, but interested to know, where did all this come from and why is it important? And that'll take place over the subsequent 3 weeks. So it's really 4 weeks in all, but week 0 is kind of a drop in, drop out experience, just whenever you feel like it's a chance to just kind of come in and look around and get yourself acclimated. No prior knowledge assumed or necessary.
And we're actually making the primary focus of where we hope people interact to be in this hypothesis environment. And so that will be interesting. Although I keep wanting to mention, we do have a Twitter bot happening, and there is Doug Engelbart out there who probably is tweeting right now or within the next 2 hours. Will tweet, and we will outline further, but there'll be different ways that people can participate, but we really hope the primary emphasis is this idea of an annotation space as a discussion idea space, And so it's not just commentary. We hope people, will explore what's capable in this annotation layer of his paper.
And the best way to follow along will be to go to framework.thoughtvectors.net. It's the URL at the bottom of your screen. And sign up for, yeah, there you go. Sign up for the email alerts that will be coming down the pike. And there'll be more videos on this channel, the Framework Project channel. Subscribe if you are of a mind. And as always, we're eager to hear your comments, eager to hear your ideas. A lot of good ideas have already started to come through. And please don't be shy.
But just annotate with us. That's our motto.